Dan
Yes.
Brunn, Mr. Dan Brunn, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Where are we?
We're at Bridgehouse in Los Angeles.
Okay. And can you please briefly introduce yourself?
My name is Dan Brunn. I'm an architect based in Los Angeles. My own firm started about 17 years ago. Studied architecture at USC undergrad, Harvard grad school.
I'm Julia Schuart of Siegel Schuart Landscape Architects.
Came back to Los Angeles and sort of just got started coming back into this field, was teaching a little bit.
I am born and raised in this beautiful city, and I studied fine arts and German at UCLA, and am first generation American. My parents are from Germany and Serbia. Finding landscape architecture was kind of a blend of my technical side and my artistic side, and it just kind of came together and led me to going to Harvard for my master's in landscape architecture.
My office does different kinds of work, anything from furniture design, hospitality, retail, houses, multifamily, big commercial projects. From LA all the way down to the East Coast in New York, we've kind of tackled all different sizes and different magnitudes.
Including my now business partner, Josh Siegel. And we have worked on large projects like Echo Park Lake and the Port of LA, and projects all across the world, and urban design scale type projects in Asia. And Josh and I both decided that we wanted to branch out and start our own partnership, our own firm. And we love the fact that we can still work on large scale projects, and we have that background, but we also love the personal experience of single family residential, working with developers and architects on affordable housing and multifamily residential, some commercial and institutional projects.
Why is this called the Bridgehouse?
Well, okay.
I mean, I know it's elementary,
of
but
course.
but
No.
sure.
People should understand, because it's not just a house that has a bridge.
Right.
The house literally is a bridge. The house is 20 feet wide, 210 feet long, spanning over a brook that bifurcates it 90 degrees essentially, and the brook is 20 feet lower.
Poolside is which, north? No.
West.
Okay, so poolside is west. On the west side,
On the west side of the project.
it goes subterranean,
Correct. There's also subterranean.
but not on the east side.
No, not on the east side.
So it goes from...
Because the property is actually doing this.
Sure, okay.
Because in general, if your ocean is on the west, land is always kind of tipping.
Yeah.
And so what is actually happening is kind of like a catapult. As you're going horizontal, imagine that you're actually ascending into space, which is nuts.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
And the house actually is on the south side of the property, all the windows facing north.
Right.
So that it's getting ambient light, but not direct light, reducing heat gain, solar, blah, blah, blah.
Sure, of course.
So the synthesis of the project and how it got started and how we ended up with all these sponsors was I did a house across the street, my own, and we did some sponsors with that, and I noticed that afterwards we did some tours, and it became like a copy paste. So I had my clients going, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want that. I was like, oh, this is really easy, and this is really nice because it shows that you're selling what you're living, right? So you're honest. And so when we got started with this, all of a sudden I realized that this could become a sort of a bridge and a marketing scheme and a way to create a showroom.
Sure.
And to show how I live is honest and truthful. And I ended up reaching out to a lot of different companies, you name it, and kind of reached out to them.
Be on site?
So here's the really interesting bit. So this area is called Brookside.
Sure.
And in LA, if you guys aren't familiar, there's a lot of regions and zones, and people call them things, all different things, Brentwood, Westwood. You're like, what does that mean? Doesn't mean anything typically. And so, so this area is called Brookside. I purchased a house across the street. The neighbor right over here invited me over. She said, you got to come see my yard. And I'm like, okay, great. Nice neighbors are always something positive. And all of a sudden, as I'm walking through the house, I'm like, oh my God, this is a 260 feet long property with a brook running down the middle. And it sort of like dawned on me, that's why it's called Brookside, because these homes are facing the brook. So you have a weird situation where on one side of the street, no brook, on this side, yes. Fast forward, I ended up befriending the caretaker for years, for about 2 years.
The caretaker.
Okay, so there was a home
Is
here.
it raw land? Oh, no, there was a home. Okay.
It would look like Jurassic Park in
Sure.
the back with a home in the front. I ended up befriending the caretaker for 2 years. I used to have a band, and we used to invite her to come see us perform. And then one day she says, hey, you know what? I forgot the lady's name. She's going to hospice care. We need to sell the property. Yes, I'm interested. And I ended up buying the property.
What year?
What was that?
What year?
This must have been 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
Okay, so post-recession.
Yes.
So
Cool. Do you see your planting plan as one consistent garden, or does the bifurcation of the brook and varying topography divide the planting plan into 2 or more gardens? I know you mentioned earlier it's like more of a gradient.
yeah, it's definitely more of a gradient, and we did try to think of the planting plan and the palette in the different zones and the microclimates, which is always really difficult because you might have full shade in one area, full sun in another.
Like under the
right,
Bridgehouse.
and the irrigation has to kind of adapt, and there are different zones involved. But so we don't think of it as separate gardens. They're not the type of garden that would be named, its own thing. But they do have a different feel. So the pool area is one area. The front garden is very different. The entry is different, but they all blend together, and the edges are supposed to be blurred. We didn't want any edges anywhere. So that is, how it unfolded, which is what we wanted.
I ended up going to the East Coast, did some house tours, and then all of a sudden I was remembering kind of the procession of entering a home. And if you're familiar with like old world English countryside homes that have a long driveway and then the home, I started connecting to that in the porte cochere and how you enter, and I started thinking about the land. So one thing that really bugged me about typical suburban development is you're driving down the street 35 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden you get to the house, stop, enter the stupid garage, walk into the house, and then you're home, and then you have the view. Sure. I wanted to change that.
The procession. Visual, physical.
All of it, emotional,
the whole entire
auditory.
Yeah.
So a lot of things I talk about in my architecture are about choreography of time and space.
Yeah.
So imagine all of a sudden you have this 260-foot long property. Instead of entering it with the first 20 feet is their setback, and that's it. Imagine being carried through. So the first thing you see is this gate that opens up slowly, and then you and I, we saw the pavers in the front, the terrazzo pavers. Those
Terrazzo
also
permeable pavers with beautiful gravel in. Now, before you keep going, you're a drummer?
Yeah, no, these drums.
So
I'm a guitarist.
You're a guitarist.
Yeah,
okay.
guitarist, piano.
Shoots, because I was gonna make this awesome connection between keeping the pace and then
Well,
the procession of how you interpret space. So maybe I'm
There
off?
is no, you're not wrong.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. I write music as
Okay.
well. So for me, like people always ask, like, how is the connection? They're like, oh, it must be the math.
Sure.
Kind of. But you nailed it, and I love that. I love that you already. Thank you, man.
We're
That you
boys.
already- that
Now
you
we're
already-
boys.
Yeah,
You're
you
like,
got
all right,
it.
you
So
got it. Okay, so.
what I say is that if you were to choreograph space or to think about a movie that goes like, doo-dum, 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 and then you have the crescendo, right? So the same thing goes for architecture and time. So here, what I'm leaning you is this kind of sinuous walk, turning, pulling, pushing. And before you enter, you get, we said we talk about the party of the project, but there's big windows, smaller windows, and those are, that's exactly it. That's the beat of the project.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
like
And
it.
I would love to score, the soundtrack.
It would be cool. I almost suggest that you don't score it.
Yeah,
I
somebody.
think-
No, that's what
yeah,
I meant.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm not.
And you probably could.
No.
Right, but
let the professionals
it
do
would
what
be
they do.
kind of cool to see the interpretation, talk to them, interview a couple musicians, see the ones that you jive with, and just go.
Go. I would love it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
See. Okay, when you do lighting, do you start out with temperature? Do you start out with the procession idea, or where do you begin?
Okay, so wow, it's a good one too. I love these questions. It's part of creating space. So temperature for me is, I mean, if you're talking interior, is usually
27.
Actually 3.
Okay, that's fair.
But it's
Yeah.
changing now. One thing we missed the boat on in this project is the new lights that actually change the color temperature throughout.
How so?
So the new system's basically attuned to the time of day and atmosphere. And so it starts
When is
off
it warmer and when is it colder?
warm. Hey, Bader. I know, come here.
Oh, wait, can I take a stab at it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Warmer in the morning, colder at night to kind of...
No.
The opposite.
No.
Okay, I'm
warmer
I
in the morning, cooler in the midday,
Okay.
warmer at night.
Oh,
That's
makes
it. So it
total
just
sense.
follows the sun. So imagine in the
Yeah.
morning you have sunrise, it's really warm.
Yeah.
At night you have sunset, it's really warm.
Right.
In the middle of the day is the only time you need white light. It's
Yeah.
only it becomes for a few hours.
So what temperatures are we talking? 25, 27?
Oh, it goes from 2,000 to 5,000 and back.
No.
But very briefly it'll be like on let's say on a 5,000. Depends on if it's cloudy.
Yeah.
It might get to 5,000 because it's actually matching the white that the clouds create, or the 4,000.
Really?
It's amazing.
I told Dan that if we had to focus on lighting anywhere, the first most important would be the trees, all the trees. And then even if we had to stop there and just do all the trees, that would be a great start, especially since there are a lot of trees. And so we have ample lighting on all the trees, and then of course some wayfinding lighting and other smaller structural landscape lighting.
And whenever we do designs, like the windows of a building is like the vignettes to the landscape outside. And it's almost like pictures or paintings of art.
Right,
So whatever you're planting outside is, you know,
right.
what you see on the inside as
Right.
well. Yeah.
And then you don't want the lighting to shine in people's faces inside, but you want the shadows on the right part of the building. And so working together to get that right was worth it, I think, for this project and for all projects. It's
Yeah,
really
definitely.
important.
I think you know, lighting design. Not only, you know, there's the initial planning process of where to place the lights,
Right.
but I think the most important part is coming back afterwards at night,
Right.
and then kind of repositioning those lights to get it dialed in perfectly.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've definitely done a few night demos, and they're super important.
Yep.
And working with the right landscape contractors who care and are able to meet you on site, you know, at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. in the summer. It's an extra effort that is necessary to get it right, for sure.
So on this project we had a landscape architect, Julia Schubert, who was Schubert Siegel. She went to Harvard with me. She studied architecture. She started landscape architecture. We had a civil engineer, Gasparo Bondo, obviously everything to deal with the land and to deal with low impact development, water runoff, all that stuff. I've worked with him.
Structural.
Structural. We have Gordon Poland's office, who we've done tons of work with as well. Obviously.
What did he say when you
You're
brought
crazy.
Him? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But then, I mean, I told him I've got something interesting for you that you're
yeah.
going to enjoy. And I mean, we've been working with him forever.
Yeah.
We did this, you know, to be involved as something that we wanted to do as a pro bono experience, more so than to brand the property, to brand the house, to brand the landscape. And it's also really hard with social media to have instant gratification when the whole concept behind this garden or landscape was for it to really grow into itself over quite a long period of time. It's only been 2 years, but in 5 years the trees will be bigger and everything will be even more full. So then 10 years, and so social media and the instant gratification of it all can't really factor into many of our
Yeah,
landscapes.
because we'll have many great shots like years later.
Right. So what's always important is that clients understand the importance of maintenance.
Yep.
And to really let the site grow in the way it's planned. But if it's planned well, it usually doesn't look good on day one. Because you can't plant too closely, and you see lots of areas that look bare, you see all the edges, which we didn't want. And so basically, it's hard to think of social media as this, but I do know that the branding experience and seeing how this house was put together is very fascinating.
One of the main purposes after finishing the house of realizing as I started to show the house was I want to get people to understand that, let's say a house of the future, living in suburbia in the future could have many different solutions. And so people need to start thinking about that, you know, and instead of thinking dollars per square foot, how much they're going to build, what are they going to build, and really question that. You know, this house is about 4,500 square feet. I could have built almost double that. I didn't. And in the end, I think I get a lot more value for everything, a lot more quality for everything. And people walk the house and they're always amazed by that. I rethought the idea of front yard, rear yard, no setbacks, all of that stuff. Let's rethink it. I challenge clients, I challenge homeowners, I challenge architects, everybody to really, and real estate agents to really stop and think.
It's also unique to be friends with the owners. You can constantly
Absolutely.
kind of touch base and help edit and change things if need be. But I hope to stay involved and to really kind of see it grow.
All right. Well, this has been a very particular, pleasurable interview of mine. I
Likewise.
feel like I could talk to you forever. So thank you so much for allowing us in your home. Thank you
My
for allowing
pleasure.
us in your outdoor space, and thank you for being so candid.
My pleasure. It's been
All
an
right,
honor.
sir.
Thank you.
All right. Great.